Hello and welcome to the Scientology Money Project. I'm your host, Jeffrey Augustine. And tonight we're going to continue on something that's been a story that's gone viral. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. And that is Linkin Park choosing Scientologist Emily Armstrong to replace Chester Bennington. It's controversial. I want to start out tonight by saying two things. One, don't shoot the messenger. Okay, I'm going to might say some stuff that will be offensive, but don't shoot the messenger. I'm going to be talking about Scientology and their dirty PIs. And full disclosure for people who are new to my audience, I am a private investigator in California. So there's a couple things when I looked at this from having decades of corporate experience. Obviously, the band Linkin Park has legal counsel and management. So does Emily. And, you know, you're going to look at this is a PR crisis. And I suspect Scientology has used different PR crisis managers. And I suspect they have brought in one of their hitters. I hope it's I hope it's not who I think it is, because he's pretty awful. He handled it's Michael Cedric, and I suspect they may have called Michael Cedric, who was disastrous in handling Harvey Weinstein's case. Mike Cedric admitted he stayed on way too long. So I want to welcome everybody. Oh, hi, Howard Taylor, Esquire. Well, the Wild West of England near Dartmoor. Yes, I understand it's very Wild West down there. Hello, Joe. I'm glad you're going to be catch-up crew. Style audit. Watch Kelly Copter rendition of Linkin Park and song "No More Wait." Yeah, it was brilliant. What Kelly Copter did was that juxtaposition was. I didn't have time to contact Kelly to see if I could rebroadcast it here, but I wanted to. So basically, I want to lay out to you what I would do if I were Scientology's Office of Special Affairs, and how I would do it. Hi, Susie Q. Glad to have you here. And yeah, it is hot tonight, Patrick. It was hit 105 here today in LA. So it's hot. It's hot. I have the air conditioner down. Otherwise, it'll pick up on the sound when you're not in the studio. So that's what I'm willing to do. So I wanted to present some additional layers of information and predictively what OSA will do. And yeah, a live. Yeah, I think it'd be good to have a late night Saturday to do a live on this. So we're going to jump right into it. And basically, this concerns a couple of people. Now, whether Emily Armstrong will be honest about it or not, she does follow L. Ron Hubbard. And he's, some people say he's God in Scientology, but they don't have a God, but he's Source, which is a Scientology analog of God. When he says he's Source, it means he's the last and final word in the universe. So he's effectively the deity in Scientology. They'll say he was a man, but they don't worship him per se, but he certainly is reverenced. And you know, it's interesting. There's a subtle point at which Hubbard is viewed as the reincarnation of the Buddha. He's effectively viewed as God, and that's it. And his word is law. And so, Emily being in, I've received several. I received a I received a call from one of her defenders today, who said, "Oh, poor Emily. She's not really in. She's an openly gay woman, and she just wants to keep in her relationship with her mom. And so you have to like give her a free pass because she's just trying to keep a relationship with her mom." But the problem with that, as has been pointed out, is this is a real world. Sometimes people, particularly artists, have to pay real costs. There are consequences. And so she can empower a psychoterrorist cult that destroys children, people, adults. My own wife lost her son at age 27, Alexander Jench, of course. Johnny Lewis unalived himself after murdering his landlady here in Los Feliz. And I could go through the litany of criminals um, SA victims, victims of uh, child molesters. So if this is what, to be fair to Emily, should she get a free pass? Absolutely not. You're in for you're in Scientology, and if she wants to be what L. Ron Hubbard called a dilettante, um, she's still in, and she's still in with the celebrity center crowd in Hollywood, which I think hides a wealth of deviance. I got a call from a lawyer today when they saw us putting this up, and there was a veiled legal threat. And I told him, my address if you want to do anything. I was actually asked to not go with the show, and a lawyer wanted to look at what I was doing. I said no, and no. So there's some damage control going on. Uh, the value of the band of the brand name of Linkin Park may have been destroyed in one fell swoop because they failed to do a lot of things. And so I'm going to show you, based on having to fight OSA, as many of you have. So many people who speak out have had to deal with OSAs, PIs and fair game and hate websites and all that. And so this is about, at a high level, this is about, will Emily Armstrong remain in the Church of Scientology, which is her right? And will Linkin Park keep her, which is their right? And what reputational damage will occur to Linkin Park? And many people like me feel that if Emily's in the band, I'm not interested in anymore. I'm out. No more Linkin Park. Because if Linkin Park, I'll say this early in the show, if they're that stupid to have not vetted her and not realized the implications. And I'll give you an example. In 2006, Tom Cruise, of course, went on Matt Lauer's Today Show and attacked Brooke Shields for her use of psychiatric medications to treat postpartum depression. And then he hijacked Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds movie to promote Scientology. And as a result, Tom Cruise in 2006 almost lost his career. Sumner Redstone fired him from Paramount and said, we will not keep an individual who affects career suicide or creative suicide. And Sumner Redstone estimated that Tom Cruise's hijacking the War of the Worlds tour to promote Scientology cost the studio at least $100 million. So Linkin Park, for your information, Sumner Redstone, who's far more powerful in his lifetime than you guys will ever be, and that's no insult, I'm just showing orders of magnitude. Sumner Redstone, head of Paramount, put a number to it, $100 million. That's the damage he estimated Tom Cruise cost, and that's why he made Tom Cruise leave the Paramount lot and fired him. Now, later on, they got back together, but Tom spent a lot of time in purgatory rebuilding his career from that damage, because there is a reputational damage. In fact, Scientology in the 1990s, they hired a PR firm, and the PR firm charged them a premium for the reputational damage the PR firm would have to absorb having that kind of client. So like you were a PR firm in the United States and you take on, like Mike Cedric, when Harvey Weinstein hired him when the civil lawsuits were just starting, and Cedric was trying to position Weinstein's victims as money grabbers. And that's what Danny Masterson, that's where he went. That's what he tried to call his victims, shameless money grabbers. So this is going to be very interesting how it plays out. And I'm just giving you some information. So these are the two central figures. She is a follower of L. Ron Hubbard, who, of course, was a very evil, vicious person. And so that's it. Now, Cedric, one of the Jane Doe's husband, Cedric Bixler-Zavala of the Mars Volta and the Drive-In, he issued this statement, and I want to read it. Quote, "Dear Emily, if you're not going to speak out against the human and child trafficking cult in which you are a part, of, and in which you enable by remaining silent on the crimes you know about, then you have no right to fill the shoes of Chester Bennington, a true advocate. I don't give a fuck that you are very close to the serial rapist. I don't give a fuck that you lied in your apology Instagram story. I do care that you participated, after being asked, in the cruel intimidation of Jane Doe 1 with your cult pals at court. I do care that you didn't once mention that you are a member of a child and human trafficking cult that covers up the abuses and rapes of children and adults. I do care that your parents work for OSA, the Office of Special Affairs of the cult of Scientology, which have been ordering attacks on me and my family, which includes murdering my dogs in the most inhumane and evil ways. I do care that they have been attacking and harassing my fellow sister survivors. You don't speak out against Scientology not because you're terrified of them. You speak out because you are one of them. Shame on Linkin Park. Fuck you. I could not agree with Cedric more. That's a perfect expression of the outrage. I went to both Danny Masterson trials. I attended every day, and I was there when Emily Armstrong was there with the posse attacking one of the Jane Does. I was there. There was a big turnout for one of the early, and I have it all on my blog. I have all the dates, the times. And someone said, "Hey, she's with Dead Sarah," and I didn't even know who the band was, and I had to look it up. But there was, Chris Wadhams, Billy Baldwin, and his wife China Phillips, and China's the stepsister of Bijou Phillips, and there was Jordan, and the whole Masterson clan was there, and a lot of the people from Scientology. So I recognized many of them, but I was actually there, and I wanted to know why Emily Armstrong was not arrested for obstruction, along with the other people who tried to intimidate a victim. And I talked to the deputy about it. I think they should have been arrested or escorted out of the building or banned. But to watch that happen, I have to say this, and I'll say it to Linkin Park in just plain language, because it's this video. That was the most vicious chicken shit thing I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of vicious chicken shit thing from Scientology. But for women to attack a woman who's been raped, really? They did that in broad daylight in a courthouse. And that's Linkin Park. That's who you want to have as your lead singer. So fuck you. I mean, that's the outrage that you're getting, that you're feeling. And it's going to get worse, because I'm going to tell you what to expect from OSA's PIs, because you guys, you're not going to walk away easily. OSA is going to make your life hell. And I'll tell you how OSA's PIs work. And I've had to fight some dirty PIs in my life, and it's a dirty world. So this is public data. Linkin Park put it up. It's on Wikipedia. Okay, so the first thing OSA is going to do is identify the band members. Okay, and then they're going to get to their label, Machine Shop, and this is all public information as well. So Scientology's Office of Special Affairs, their Scientology Mafia, is going to get a dossier, surveillance on all these people. And I'm not going to read out the names, but this is public information. So Linkin Park, you put your own people at risk by publishing this stuff on your websites, and that's not smart to do. And you didn't think ahead of time of what could happen of the outcome. And you cannot discriminate against anyone's religion. So I'm not criticizing Emily Armstrong's right to practice Scientology, but what I'm talking about is there is such a thing as accountability, consequences. You look at, you did what? I mean, very simple, a few simple calls, hiring someone to do a background, so they're going to now, OSA is going to build a dossier on the band members. And how Hubbard works is this way, because what Scientology is positioning for is they'd better not have Emily leave the band. And so they're going to build a dossier on these people. And I found these, like I said, this is publicly available on Wikipedia. I didn't even do any PI work for this. This is just out there. So right away, we know the main moving parts of Linkin Park, and that's what OSA will see. Now, Hubbard's definition of intelligence, this comes from his OSA network, and again, I'll post a link. Yeah, OSA operates like the mafia. Yeah, they do it. They do it even worse in some ways because they have things the mafia doesn't have, like 501c3 religious protections, religious worker visas to move criminals out of the jurisdiction, a travel agency. So Hubbard says a definition of intelligence, and this is what they're going to try to gather on Linkin Park. Intelligence is the process of informing one's command area of the plans, characteristics, and crimes of all opponents to one's own activity and purpose. Well, this isn't really a true definition of intelligence. Intelligence does include finding out, what your opponent is doing, how they're structured, their command, communications, control, where their facilities are located, radio frequencies, signals, intelligence. But when Hubbard says that he wants to know about their crimes, generally, right now, Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. And that's known. Intelligence isn't going to go in there. They have the evidence. Hubbard's definition is find out how we can blackmail these people. We want to find out who they are, what they're doing. We want to find their crimes. So this is where Linkin Park's risk is. The first thing OSA's PIs are going to go look for is dirt and any crimes, because potentially they may have to write a hate website on Linkin Park. And so they're going to go through all these people and look, are there, what kind of crimes, arrests, difficulties, what can they do to get some dirt on these people? So that's what Linkin Park has risked, put people at risk. And now, one thing I want to talk about is Chester Bennington unalived himself after shortly after his friend Chris Cornell did, 2017, I believe. And the mental health component, Scientology's main emphasis is to destroy psychiatry on planet Earth, to destroy all mental health except for Scientology. And so as such, Emily Armstrong, as a Scientologist, would be opposed to psychiatric medications, psychologists, anyone getting treated by a therapist, anyone getting any kind of treatment outside of Scientology. Something I wanted to share for a while during the pandemic. That's her. I'm going to share this screen. During the pandemic, so Emily, one problem is Linkin Park's music spoke to the existential horror of life, and Chester's music was critically acclaimed for him being able to reach people who felt disenfranchised. They felt freaks, alienated, they outcast of society, and he was able to share his own pain and struggles. And that's why so many people loved him and identified with him and the music of Linkin Park. And people were getting help, struggling in their own way. And Scientology wants to destroy all sources of help. And one thing that Scientology started doing after the pandemic, they were down for a while. And now their Freedom Magazine has come back up. And Tony Ortega is usually pretty good at covering this, but he missed this, that at September 6, 2024, Freedom Magazine, this is Scientology's in-house rag. It really is a rag. This is their propaganda. And their headline they're leading with, and this, like I said, this just came out 2 days ago. The truth about psychiatry is shocking. It's created an industry of treatments that do far more harm than good in addressing diseases that don't exist. So, Emily Armstrong, do you believe that? Do you believe that psychiatry is phony? And they do this graphic And you can go to the site. It's Freedom Magazine or freedommag.org. I mean, you have to, as a Scientology critic, you have to go and look at their source material. And I do that. And what they're saying is a non sequitur. They're attacking the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, which contains 374 disorders. And they say that none of them, this is Scientology's non sequitur. And this is what Emily Armstrong has been taught as a Scientologist. They're saying that these psychiatric disorders can't be validated by lab tests, blood tests, or pathology. Well, yeah, there's a lot of things like pancreatic cancer. You often don't get that till it's too late. There's heart disease. There's all kinds of things that you don't catch, all kinds of diseases, conditions, autism. There's things that you don't always catch. So the flawed logic here is that Scientology says in order to be real, it has to be discoverable by a lab test, blood test, or pathology. And that's not true. There's so many things that those tests will not pick up. And then they say that they're voted into existence. No, that's actually called peer review. That's called peer review. And then Scientology says there is zero resemblance between these invented maladies and actual science. Back to the case of Chester Bennington. He struggled with his demons. Were they invented maladies? What Scientology is saying is that psychiatry is bullshit, and the only answer is Scientology to get rid of your body thetans on OT3. But it gets worse because if you've ever been treated with had psychiatric treatment, you're in a legal pre-clear. Scientology won't let you be a member. So they want to destroy psychiatry while refusing to admit anyone who needs psychiatric or psychological help. Or, there's so much known about neurotransmitters, SSRIs, and all kinds of things. There's so much known nowadays. They act like there's no science. So, Emily, are you anti-science or are you anti-psychiatry? That's the first thing I'd want to know. Are you against? I would ask Emily Armstrong this. Emily, are you against people getting mental health treatment from a psychiatrist or a psychologist? Are you opposed to that as a matter of principle? Do you believe that psychiatry is bullshit? Do you believe it? L. Ron Hubbard did, and you're a Scientologist. Let's go back and get a little bit more. So that's one thing I would put her on trial for. Scientology says without psychotropic drugs, our communities would be safer, period. No, there's no evidence to that. And they're saying that these disorders are fake. But look at this illogic. With no disorders diagnosed, there would be no psychiatric drugs, no surgery, and no electroshock. Look at that hocus pocus. Look at that hocus pocus bullshit. So basically, Scientology is engaging in sophistry. If we could get rid of the DSM and its definitions of psychiatric disorders, then all that would cease to exist, and we wouldn't need psychiatry, psychosurgery, or psychiatric drugs. It's kind of like a hocus pocus. It's the most simplistic idiocy I have ever read. It's not even pseudoscience. It's garbage. It's Scientology. What they're doing doesn't even rise to the level of rank pseudoscience. It is pure cultic idiocy. There are no PhDs in Scientology, or I should say, there's only a handful. Bob Duggan, who made his money in big pharma, billionaire Bob Duggan, Scientologist, he's distanced himself. He knew enough to hire a lot of PhDs, and I bring Bob Duggan into this because I think he knows science, or at least he knows how to manage money and hire people and stay out of their way. But my challenge, to Linkin Park, ask Emily, does she believe that this doesn't exist? And if psychiatric drugs should be outlawed, no psychosurgery, meaning electroconvulsive therapy. And they don't really do lobotomies. They do ECT. And Tony Ortega did a piece where Scientology is trying to bankrupt the two companies that do ECT machines, electroconvulsive therapy. And that's a means of last resort for people who want to unalive themselves. ECTs, it's a last resort treatment. I mean, it is an absolute. I talked to a psychiatric expert, a top psychiatric expert at a top university after Tony did a story. And she told me ECT is a treatment of last resort. But even Scientology wants to destroy that. So that would be my question to Emily. And then this goes to, and this goes to something else that I've wanted to share on my blog, or I want to share with you rather, that I put on my blog. And this is equally disturbing. So we have Scientology back up fighting against psychiatry. So how does Emily fit into this? I'll show you how she probably fits into it, I think, and by something that Danny Masterson, he did an interview in 2014, and let me find it here. He did an interview, and I just have to find it. I want to find Danny Masterson in his own words. Let's share this, shall we? Okay, this is Danny Masterson in his own words. And this is a, convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape. He's away for 30 years to life. This was an interview Danny Masterson did, I believe, in 2014 with a now defunct publication called Paper Mag. And I have the interview posted. Danny Masterson said of L. Ron Hubbard, he's a fucking guy who wrote awesome shit that I love studying. Emily, how do you feel about it? Danny felt that way. But in this profanity-strewn interview, he talked about it. And I want to bring out these statements because this is Danny Masterson before everything went to civil trial and criminal. They asked him, so then what would you say is your personal relationship to L. Ron Hubbard? Danny Masterson said, he's a fucking guy who wrote awesome shit that I love studying. That's who he is. So Emily Armstrong, is L. Ron Hubbard some fucking guy who wrote awesome shit? Who is he to you? And now this is interesting. Again, this is to Linkin Park and what Chester and Chris and so many other people went through, that you try to communicate that in your music. Okay, question to Danny Masterson, again in 2014. A question. Another thing you hear is that Scientology and psychiatry are pitted against each other. Masterson answers, and remember, he's been raised in Scientology. Quote, yes, you will not find a Scientologist who does not fucking hate psychiatrists. Psychiatrists basically have this fucking manual that has 5,000 disorders in it that you just bill your insurance company. Oh, you have PMS disorder. You have caffeine addict disorder. You have mathematic disorder. Here, take Prozac. What the fuck is that? That's the solution to depression, not fucking Prozac or whatever other pill that makes the kid then walk into a goddamn school and kill other kids. That again shows the raging simplistic idiocy of how Scientology indoctrinates its members. So Masterson says you will not find a Scientologist who does not fucking hate psychiatrists. Emily Armstrong, care to answer? Do you fucking hate psychiatrists? Again, I'm going to keep pushing that question on her, and the media should, because she grew up in the same era. And so Danny was coached with a message that the DSM has these manufactured diagnoses, and that's so that they can put you on psych drugs, and then you'll wind up shooting up a school. Every time there's a shooting, they try to blame the psychiatrist. Scientology blamed Hitler in the Holocaust. They said that there's a book, Thomas Saz, who was connected to Scientologists, said that psychiatrists were the men behind Hitler and the Holocaust. And then Masterson goes on to say, I have a family, and I'm a spiritual being who likes to understand things, why things happen in the world, and want to learn more so that I can have them not affect me adversely. So if that's where, well, then you can go fuck yourself. That's a Scientologist attitude. If you don't like what I'm doing, go fuck yourself. Tom Cruise said that in a 2007 interview. He said, if you don't like Scientology, you can go fuck yourself. And I have that interview. And it says, question, sounds like you found your own connection with Scientology in your teens. And Masterson said, yep, yeah, there's lots of, oh yeah, here, check out this book. It might help your life. And then all of a sudden they're like, boom, oh my God, I need this fucking all day long. So when I'm sitting there studying about something, I'm oftentimes sitting next to guys from Nation of Islam who are friends and are fully Jewish, and other friends who are Catholic, and Reverend Freddie Johnson is a Baptist minister. This was pure BS, because the Nation of Islam is a black separatist group. They do not assemble with Caucasian Scientologists and not Jewish Scientologists at all. And this was just a pure PR. There's an interesting clip in this. At the end of this clip, the rapist Danny Masterson. So look at the logic of this. The Church of Scientology, when Masterson was doing this interview, knew all about the rapes that Masterson had committed, and it wasn't just rapes; it was drugging women, because that's what L.A. District Attorney Ariel Anson, she summed up her closing remarks in the second case, is it all begins with a drink. So you can see that the Office of Special Affairs knew all about it. And while Masterson was giving rehearsed talking points that psychiatry is no good. So that leads me to ask, I'd like Emily Armstrong to give a statement on her views about psychiatry relative to her religion. Now, going back to Linkin Park, I have some dossiers I want to show you. The first thing you do, this is a case I worked on, and I'm not going to, it's attorney-client, but I can just show you the amount of paperwork. And so we build dossiers on people, not one, not two. And this was for something that was, this was the major dossier. That's how much information you can get on a company. And that's not even all of it. Another one. Another one. So, oh, I'm sorry. I hit that. Oh, well. This was investigative material put together by a team of lawyers, PIs, against someone involved in financial fraud. And so Linkin Park, it does get real. They will build a dossier on each of you band members and your team. And if you start being followed, you should report it. You should have situational awareness, because I don't know that you're in a good spot. If you choose to stick with Emily, you take the reputational hit. That's up to you. I'm just saying that what they're going to do is there's already teams of lawyers and PIs and researchers digging into all that, and stuff is easier to find than you think if you know how to do it. And sometimes there's people in your past you may have offended who are willing to talk or give information. So let's go back to so that's Danny Masterson's paper mag interview. If anyone wants to, I mean, this is something journalists should read, and this is why when did I post this? I posted it 2021, but it is at 2014. I try to archive this stuff, and they tried to purge so much. Scientology tried to purge so much. Oh, this is when Bijou Phillips took down her YouTube account. And then I had put some stuff on Bijou up during the pendency of the trial that she took down. So this was, of course, during the trial, Masterson's famously blind to the optics of everything. He's charged with 3 counts of forcible rape. And then he posts this. I mean, this was the first trial. Had the most beautiful Uber driver drop me off at school today. No, you were at downtown LA criminal court, where you were in trial for your life. This was, I think, when Thomas Messero was still representing you, Danny. when he introduced the Scientology ethics book into evidence. That's probably what got him fired from the case. So, and then I have the interview on a PDF. It's just slow loading right now. So there is a wealth of information for background. And so let's go to the next, let's go back to our slides. So basically, is Linkin Park going to align itself with a singer, or it has rather? Linkin Park has aligned itself with a singer who according to the tenets of her own church, David Miscavige himself, the leader, said we have to destroy psychiatry. I mean, not he says we have to annihilate psychiatry. So Scientology's main purpose is to destroy psychiatry, mental health, psychiatric medications. What is Emily's position on this? Will it be reflected in her music? Will she want to write a song that's about killing all psychiatrists? These questions are legitimate. What will they let her do? This is a quote from Dianetics. And again, because she's gay, this is Hubbard's quote from Dianetics. And he says, quote, the sexual pervert, and by this term, Dianetics, to be brief, includes any and all forms of deviation in dynamic two, meaning the sexual dynamic, such as homosexuality, lesbianism, sexual sadism, etc., and all down the catalog of Ellis and Kraft-Ebing, is actually quite ill physically. So according to Hubbard, Emily is quite ill physically. And then basically Hubbard tears into gay people as being sick. But one thing that he cites is Ellis and Kraft-Ebing. Those were 19th century psychiatrists he's relying on. Ellis Kraft-Ebing demonized LGBTQA. Now, back then he would just call them homosexuals and lesbians, but he demonized them. Hubbard actually borrowed from the psychiatric work of Kraft-Ebing, which has been denounced by many gay rights organizations, rightfully so, for being really bad. But I'll post that on my blog too, but you can actually read. So Emily, how do you feel? And that question has been asked again many times. The founder of your religion, L. Ron Hubbard, whose source, how do you feel about him denouncing who you are innately? Who you are innately as a gay woman. How do you feel about that? Is that okay with you? Why does it make sense for you to belong to an organization whose founder denounces you as being quite ill? And yet, do you feel it's hypocritical that you can be openly gay, but people in CR can't? How do you address these inconsistencies? And Linkin Park, how do you address them? She's your bandmate now. You picked her. And then something, okay, now this is what I want to do next. This is not work safe. What I'm going to read next is not work safe. It's not child safe, so children shouldn't be exposed to it. It's something that L. Ron Hubbard wrote in his affirmations around 1946 when he was doing work with Jack Parsons in the Ordo Templi Orientis in Pasadena, Thelema, which was created by Aleister Crowley. So in these affirmations, they're sort of statements you make to yourself, and people still do this type of thing. You make statements to yourself. I will prosper. I will do this. I will do that. I don't care about, this kind of thing. So Jerry Armstrong, much to his credit, he introduced the affirmations of L. Ron Hubbard into court in his 1983 court case. I think it was Armstrong versus Church of Scientology, California. And the Church of Scientology never disputed these. In fact, Mary Sue Hubbard sued to get the papers back, saying they were private property that belonged to Ron and Mary Sue. And the court let Jerry Armstrong keep them. So we have Jerry Armstrong to thank for introducing the affirmations. And I'll post the link. Let me take a drink. So again, if you're at work, put on your headphones or don't listen to it, catch it later. I don't want children listening to it. And I'm just giving you a trigger warning. If you've been damaged by Scientology, this is actually L. Ron Hubbard's own words about women, and I'm going to read them verbatim. And I want to ask Emily Armstrong what she thinks about them. I want to ask Linkin Park. This is your bandmate, and this is her religious leader. And this is really disgusting. And this is L. Ron Hubbard's view of women. So let's just go there, and I'm going to read it. So I've given you enough time to, okay, clear the decks. Hubbard wrote, quote, your own pleasure, meaning L. Ron Hubbard, so he's referring to himself, quote, your own pleasure is not dependent on the woman's. You are interested only in your own sexual pleasure. If she gets any, that is all right, but not vital. Many women are not capable of pleasure in sex, and anything adverse they say or do has no effect whatever upon your pleasure. Their bodies thrill you. If they repel you, it merely means they themselves are too frigid or prudish to be bothered with. They are unimportant in bed except as they thrill you. Your sexual power is magnificent and they know it. If they are afraid of it, that is their loss. You are not affected by it. You have no fear if they conceive. What if they do? You do not care. Pour it into them and let fate decide. The slipperier they are, the more you enjoy it because it means their mucus is running madly with pleasure. There is nothing wrong in the sex act. Nothing any woman may say can change your opinion. You are a master. You are as sensitive and sexy as Pan. Lord help women when you begin to fondle them. You are master of their bodies, master of their souls, as you may consciously wish. You have no karma to pay for these acts. You cannot now accumulate karma, for you are a master adept. If you know anything about Goetia, which is black magic, what Hubbard's just written down, these are the words of a rapist. And this is part of the DNA of Danny Masterson and all this essay that goes on in church and the essay of children. This is Goetia. This is black magic. This is Hubbard saying women are meaningless objects. And you can see why Masterson, in the vein of L. Ron Hubbard, felt that he could drug and rape women. This is straight out of Hubbard. The church has never denied it, never repudiated it. But look how disgusting this is. So again, Linkin Park, this is your bandmate. This is part of her Scientology DNA. Will she denounce it? What does she do? This is on you, Linkin Park. So I'm saying don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I've been a public critic of Scientology since 2005. I used to write under the name of Jay Swift. I've done a lot, and I document a lot at my blog, the Scientology Money Project. So this is all in writing. I'm not making it up. It's documented. It's in court cases. It's irrefutable. It's incontestable. I'm just trying to show you what you're involved with. And I'm also warning you to exercise some situational awareness because they're going to start compiling the dossiers on you for possible hate sites if this goes south. They're going to start compiling this. If you get photographed, and I'm just warning you, have situational awareness. You're in deeper than you think, and you should be concerned. One thing I will share is that Karen and I here, we live in Los Feliz, and the road manager of a very famous alternative rock band used to be our neighbor. And we would see the band come late at night before a concert. They'd pull up in their, blacked out SUVs, and they would sometimes meet next door. And I met the band members. I mean, I would have my dog Sebastian, my Borzoi, with me, and I would see them. And but their security was very impressive. So I'm saying, up your security in the short term until you figure this thing out, what you want to do. But this thing, it's there. Again, I'm going to post a link in the show notes where you can read it. And that's L. Ron Hubbard. and that's your bandmate. And I go back to the other interview with Masterson. You can see the clear view of women held in Scientology by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder, by Danny Masterson. And I'm not saying all male Scientologists have that view, but you can see the criminal ones certainly do. And they try to cover up. And they tried to cover up for Danny Masterson. And the problem that you have is that Emily Armstrong was part of that cover up. What she did, and I was there and I saw it. I don't know why, I did the whole thing didn't work. She's still connected to John Mappin. Who's that? I may have been missing. I'm not following it. Gang stalking clips. Emily is a star entertainer, which grants more leeway from Scientology rules. Well, yeah, and that's why Danny was covered up for. If you're in Scientology, yeah, and if you're in Scientology, you get certain permissions. So I want to go back to my. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing that. And I want to get back to my. Okay, so that's something that I will leave you with, because we're 46 minutes in. So it goes a lot deeper, and it's there's a saying out here for new Scientology watchers: Scientology is always worse than you think. And you have to ask yourself, at what point does the horror of Scientology outweigh talent? Because obviously you can have someone who belongs to a deviant group who's talented, and that's very disturbing. That was covered with, for example, Mel Gibson's father belonged to a pretty virulent strain of Christianity. So, and that's just a minor, lesser example. But Mel went through his time of trouble, certainly. But that's quite different than a structural thing where the advantage. What I get asked by journalists, what attraction does Scientology have to celebrities? Part of it is you get your own private mafia, and you're going to get, so OSA is going to get involved, Office of Special Affairs. They're going to get attorneys. They're going to get PR crisis damage control involved. They're going to do an all-out effort. And also, if you're writing about it or posting about it, Scientology has their internet squad, which will collect every single article, poster, everything on the internet. They will vacuum cleaner the internet to get anyone, everyone, whether you're a big writer, small writer, big content creator, small, they're going to document everything on YouTube, Instagram, X, everything. They're going to document it all. They're going to cover it. Now, and that's why I'm saying, if you object, go post. And I think that I'm hoping Linkin Park is doing a survey of social media landscape to see what the cost would be. As I mentioned, just one film, Mr. Redstone said that Tom Cruise caused $100 million in damage. So what's the damage to Linkin Park's brand? What's the damage to Chester's legacy? So those are things about which to be concerned. I had something else to show. I want to share this for sure. This is just something that's related to Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise left the church for a while. When he married Nicole Kidman, he became somewhat inactive and uninterested in the church. So David Miscavige was very upset and wanted to recover Tom. And I've covered this in detail, and I think it's worth sharing, because this is something, again, situational awareness to Linkin Park. Because let me say this before I share this screen. As a Scientologist, Emily Armstrong is trained to write knowledge reports. So she'll be writing knowledge reports on everything that her band members and the label is saying. She'll be writing secret knowledge reports to Scientology's Office of Special Affairs, because that's what she's ordered to do. So you have to be very careful. Because Tom Cruise's household staff, we learned, through former members who were involved in getting his household staff together. They were writing knowledge reports on Tom, what time he got up, what he had for breakfast, literally spying on him all the time. So with the knowledge reports, yeah, you're going to have it. So I wanted to just cover this Nicole Kidman, and then we'll start winding it up. But this is very much worth seeing what they did to Nicole Kidman. So David Miscavige determined that he had to drive a wedge. He had to get Tom Cruise to divorce Nicole Kidman. And to that end, he brought in former private investigator Anthony Pellicano, among others. And this is a piece back in 2015. And this is what Marty Rathbun in Going Clear, before he turned, he talked about how they wiretapped Nicole Kidman. And I document it here. I put together all the pieces I could get. And so Linkin Park, this kind of shows you a roadmap of how they did it. And some background on their spying and what they're going to do. This is Hollywood and Ivar. This is what's called the HGB building. It's where the L. Ron Hubbard Lifetime Museum is. Those two white upper floors, 10 and 11, that's where Office of Special Affairs is located. And then Religious Technology Center, that's David Miscavige's corporation. That's where they're located at. They have other offices. So basically, I do some prefatory material, and then I talk about what OSA is and how they wiretapped. I actually put a timeline out. I constructed one of how Scientology arranged to wiretap Nicole Kidman. And what happened, the infamous private investigator Anthony Pellicano, who actually went to prison, the FBI raided his office and found some military-grade explosives, and they found thousands and thousands of hours of wiretaps, including Nicole Kidman talking about her divorce, which would have given Tom Cruise an advantage in the divorce. And this was covered widely at the time in 2001. And of course, Pellicano at the time, his client list included Michael Jackson, Farrah Fawcett, Sylvester Stallone, and even LAPD Detective Mark Furman. So this is an interesting piece, but it just shows November 21, 2022, the FBI raids the office of Los Angeles private investigator Anthony Pellicano and finds C4 plastic explosive and hard drives containing hundreds of hours of wiretap phone conversations. These hard drives include conversations Nicole Kidman had with various people. The evidence seized by the FBI offers irrefutable evidence that Nicole Kidman was wiretapped. This confirms Rathbun's statement that Kidman was wiretapped. However, there is no concrete evidence linking Pellicano to Scientology. Perhaps there's a grassy knoll situation here in a second wiretapper. Going Clear leaves the question hanging in the air. That was Alex Gibney's excellent film. So the FBI analyzed it. Pellicano pled guilty to the explosive charges. He did time in prison. He's now out. He lost his license as a PI, but now he's still working as a negotiator, he calls it. I think maybe a fixer. Tom Cruise's lawyer, Burt Fields, acknowledges that the FBI looked into him in the wiretapping. Burt Fields actually waived his certain rights and said, yes, investigate me. When Pellicano was let out of prison in 2006, he was immediately rearrested on 110 counts that include wiretapping, racketeering, conspiracy, witness tampering, and identity theft. Witness tampering. That's what I wondered, that's something I want to address in a separate thing. Witness tampering. And I'm getting a little bit ahead. That's for another story. So Tom Cruise was questioned by the FBI about Anthony Pellicano and wiretapping. Nicole Kidman was questioned, and they questioned Cruise's divorce attorney, Dennis Wasser. So this is how big it got when David Miscavige wanted Tom Cruise back into the fold, and this became an international news story. The FBI was involved, and it's all there in black and white. Again, I am not someone out for clicks, trying to be sensational. This is all the actual data. Um, you know, the New Yorker did a story where they confirmed that Tom Cruise had hired Anthony Pellicano. It was known, for instance, that Pellicano had been retained to work for Tom Cruise to suppress possible tabloid stories. So my point is, so Pellicano got 15 years in prison. He was released last year. And this is interesting. Why? Because it lets you know that when there's a high stakes celebrity thing going on, especially the Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, Scientology arguably involved Anthony Pellicano, because the tapes of Nicole Kidman, the wiretaps were found in his office when they raided it and found the explosives. So I'm just saying operational security is important for Linkin Park while you evaluate the situation. Be aware that you could be wiretapped. You should have your phone swept. You should take measures. Ultimately, it's the band's decision. It's Emily's decision. I'm just showing you the context of how Church of Scientology Mafia and will go, how far they will take it, with criminal activity. And there have been certainly there's a Scientology hired PI was arrested for wiretapping Tony Ortega and Mike Rinder. There was another PI who put out a text message. He said word is that they want to kill Leah Remini, meaning Scientology. So this is quite a story, but I'm just giving you some elements and structure of it that maybe the rest of the media is not, because I actually, like I said, I know what is going on already. First, what they do is compile information, look for dirt, look for incriminating information, look for who your friends are, and they'll build a network, a relational network. And you do this, for example, with the January 6th insurrection. The Department of Justice has software, and I can get it. Anyone can really get it. But you build a database of who's connected to who. And you look for what's important to the members of Linkin Park and the company. You look for ways you can threaten them. So this is a very fluid situation. And I just want to show what goes on behind the scenes. Yes, when you're a Scientology celebrity, you get your own private mafia. That's why Danny Masterson was able to cover up for so long before justice finally got him and put him in prison. And part of that was putting a lot of people at that hearing that Emily Armstrong attended, where they actually tried to attack one of Masterson's victims. Emily's apology was meaningless, and she took it down. But what's going on, I'm following things on X just because I'd like to document, and it's on my blog. I try to document evidence, posts, social media, and I'm going to just share one more thing, and then we'll take some questions and wrap it up. I want to share X. I was glad to see Cedric posted what he did, and has been reposted numerous times. And so X, Emily Armstrong is trending, and I think the band, while you can watch X in social media, you should listen to someone like me who can tell you what's really going to go on behind the scenes, because what you want to do is, again, situational awareness, operational security, threat analysis, risk assessment, because X is not going to protect you from anything. It's going to give you maybe a temperature on your decision. But, Emily's being called a rape apologist. And you have to look at what happened to Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher when they defended Danny. So X is valuable to a certain extent for getting a read on the public outrage. But what I'm telling you about what they did to Nicole, how they hire things, how they hire PIs, how they build dossiers, how they try to get blackmail. That's really what you won't see on X. That's what you'll see on the Scientology Money Project blog from a licensed PI in California who's had to fight them, along with my wife, Karen de la Carriere, who was at one time married to the president of the Church of Scientology, Hubbard. And so this is, again, it's not clickbait. It's sort of an educational thing. And again, I'll just finish up situational awareness, do a threat analysis, because I can assure you, Linkin Park, this goes deeper than you think, and there's more moving parts behind the scenes. So I'm just saying, whatever decision you make altogether, you'll bear the consequences of that. That's up to you. What Emily does is on her. I don't object to her right to practice her religious views at all. Her religious. I don't object to her right to practice her religion. However, knowing what her religion is and how it behaves, I strenuously object to its behavior, its conduct, and her adherence to its tenets. If she's in on fair game and Hubbard's view of women, his dehumanization of women as objects, I mean, how deep does she go? And if she's just saying, I have to stand for mom, well, you're empowering a cult, and part of the money she makes from Linkin Park, and this is why I don't watch Tom Cruise movies, Linkin Park, part of the money that you pay Emily will be donated to the Church of Scientology to perpetuate a psychoterrorist cult that engages in trafficking children, adults, abuses people, destroys people. So part of the income that Emily will derive from you will go to the Church of Scientology. So think about your moral and karmic responsibility for that and govern yourself accordingly, because who knows how bad the reputational damage gets and who knows what leaks come out. Who knows? So with that, let's get some comments real quick and then we'll wrap up. We're at an hour. PB writes, also considering she's openly gay, we don't really know if she regularly goes to studies and visits the base. It is entirely possible she follows Syriac instructions due to her mom and Osa. I think that's good to say. You know, Danny Masterson never made it far up the bridge, but he was a celebrity. So he went to their Christmas shows at the Celebrity Center. He did appearances. He did that Paper Mag interview. So no, she's not going to go to be an OT8. They're not going to allow her up on those levels. Probably, I think Aaron commented on that. So does she still support Masterson? I don't know. I can't speak. Emily, in her half-ass non-apology, said she didn't. I don't believe Emily. Actually, I don't believe her. I interview people as a PI, and sometimes people lie. They will lie. They'll just lie to you. I interviewed a guy in a parking lot the other day, and I knew damn well from the evidence I had, because PIs, like lawyers, we like to know more about you before we ask you a question. That's just good planning. And I knew we ask questions that we already know the answer to. Those are the good PIs, who are the professionals. We know the answers before we ask the question. I asked the question, he lied to me because I had the document in my hand and I knew he was lying. So sometimes if Emily issues an apology, does she still support Masterson? Because the word around I get from some of my sources is that people believe that the WOGs, whatever organizations opposed to Scientology, was out to get Danny Masterson, that he was somehow the victim of this non-Scientology cabal, anti-Scientology cabal that was out to put his head on a pike. And that's not true. The jury convicted him. And the evidence, the testimony was painful. And I still admire the Jane Doe's and always will for the courage it took to get on that stand and go through the hell they did. Pelicano got embarrassed in court for trying to shame Gary Shandling. He did. And whether Pelicano is like going back to some of his old clients to see if he can pick up work as a negotiator, I don't know. I don't know. I do know about his time a long time ago when he hung around with LAPD at Piper Technical Center. I know a lot about that. Scientology can't afford to have her lose her spot in Linkin Park for being Scientology connected, nor can they afford for her to leave. This is a major PR disaster, as Jeff is making clear. Wayne, this is really interesting. And I want to ask the audience, you who are listening, I'm sorry, it's so hot. I need some iced tea. And maybe I'll sit out on the porch with a mint julep and a fan like I'm down south. Now it is hot. So yeah, this is like a Scientology doesn't want to lose the PR by having Emily leave. And I don't know what the legal arrangements are if the band can let her go for cause, what the contract was, what the negotiation was, or she could sue them for breach. So there's so many things we don't know, but we do know that there's been reputational damage already to the band, and if there's something in the contract about reputational damage, so there's so many things we don't know. But yeah, if she insists on staying in, then people out online who are saying they should just change the name of the band, maybe they should just rebrand as not Linkin Park, but the Danny Masterson, We Regret What He Did band. They could call it that. And I'm not being sarcastic, because as long as she's there, it's the we were sorry about Danny Masterson. We had nothing to do with it, and we don't remember it. Rogue Knox. Unfortunately, Linkin Park does not care. Mike has been working with Emily for years. Maybe they don't care, but when they start seeing the hit to the bottom line and what goes on, and if they're willing to lose part of their, maybe they are, maybe they don't care. I think Linkin Park should care. I think they should care. And if they don't, then I think it falsifies their music. I think it destroys their integrity, because it sends a message to their fans that we're willing to be associated with Scientology and all of its horrendous human rights violations, that we don't care. And that's kind of the worst message you can send when you're trying to do the things that Linkin Park did and say the things. And then you've got a member of a master race cult. And that's something I always hammer on. Scientology is a master race cult. They believe they're a race called Homo Novus, that they're a level above human. And this is where you saw Tom Cruise saying back in 2006, we're the experts on the mind. We're the experts on getting people off drugs. Only we can help at the scene of an accident. You saw that Homo Novus, that master race cult, that we alone have the solutions. Tom Cruise said, we're the only group that has the solutions. And so there's there could be a lot of downstream damage. And she's not Axl Rose. No kidding, Gussie. She's no Axl Rose. So with that, that's just comments from a professional private investigator, Scientology critic. Again, if you want to reach out, ScientologyMoneyProject.com, my address is there. Let's get this. Linkin Park is a misspelling of the area where they formed a mass. They should rebrand as Clearwater. Yeah, I was going to do. Well, let's end on kind of a humorous note. People like me to do my Hubbard voice. And yeah, if you can't laugh, you'll cry. Do you want to hear a little bit of Hubbard, what Hubbard's thoughts are on this? Put a 1 in the comments if you want to hear a little bit of Hubbard before we go. Yes, okay. I'll give you some Hubbard. Yeah, I'm scared too. Here's what Hubbard would say. Here's what Hubbard would say. This is a comedy. Okay, so he would say, the first indications, the first outpoints that Emily Armstrong should have noticed is that the band, this WOG band with she's joined, their illiteracy. These are walking illiterates. Lincoln is spelled Lincoln, Lincoln, as in President Lincoln, and yet they spell it Linkin, showing that they're quite illiterate. And what Emily needs to do is introduce them to Scientology study technology and have them clear the word Lincoln, not Lincoln. So I think that Emily ignored those out points, and now she's got herself in quite a kerfluffle. And this band is quite horrible. I've read their lyrics. That's not real music at all. Real music is my song. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. You know, if you want to have some fun, Google L. Ron Hubbard. Thank you for listening. And go to YouTube and hear him. He sounds like a bullfrog. Thank you. So, one thing I have to tell Emily Armstrong is that she's very in serious danger unless she gets to handle the gay. And we can audit that away in Scientology. We have programs to audit the gay away. It worked for John Travolta. We successfully cured him. And we can do it for Emily. Because frankly, she'll never reach the OT levels until she handles this past life situation, which she's quite physically ill. Isn't that, the thing about it is it's funny, but it's vicious. Yeah, so this is just an interesting story. But that's it with Scientology. You never know what's going to happen next. So we'll wait to see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. And until the end, please like and subscribe. Smash that like and subscribe button like a Venusian freight locomotive. And that was one of Hubbard's terms, that he was up on Venus. And Hubbard said he was up on Venus and he almost got hit by a freight locomotive. Bitch, you weren't on Venus and almost didn't get hit by a freight locomotive. It must have been the mescaline. So, well, thank you so much. We're going to end with some night driving. And by the way, the lawyer that calls me, if you want to call back, feel free. My number, but I ran with the show and nothing's going to happen. And so until then, we'll see you next time. We're going to jump back on the Hollywood Freeway here. Go check out Scientology Celebrity Center to see if Emily is at the Scientology Celebrity Center getting some auditing for these engrams on Linkin Park. See you next time.